From the Windows, Doors, and More studios, your one-stop shop for all your kitchen and bath needs. The Pat Miller Program. Whoa, 92.3 FM and 1190 AM. Depend on it.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I hope you all had a fabulous July the 4th. The skies in and around all of Northeast Indiana were nice and clear and beautiful for the most part. Had a little sprinkles here and there, but nobody was not able to get off their planned firework displays, whatever the community you were in or even in your own backyard. I hope you grilled what you wanted, watched what you wanted, had a great time, and had a great chance to remember and be thankful for our great country. It's amazing. Here we are, a week and 2 days since the presidential debate, the first debate of this year. I really thought that last week and everything that we did would fill it all up, but the White House response to the president and his performance in the debate has nothing to do but just engender even further dismay and further disbelief about everything regarding the president and this particular debate performance. I take you to Joe Biden himself. He goes, I decided to travel around the world a couple of times shortly before the debate. I didn't listen to my staff, and then I almost fell asleep on stage. Okay, Joe spent a few days traveling the globe. Well, he went forward a few time zones, came back a few time zones, then went forward a few time zones. He spent a few days traveling. He returned 12 days before the debate, and then he spent an entire week at Camp David getting ready for his big night. So I'm not real sure that when you do what he does, he went forward 6 time zones to the G7 in Italy, 9 time zones back to L.A., and then 3 time zones again forward to D.C. to get back to where he was. And on top of that, KJP told us, he also had a cold. Okay, let's talk about that for a minute. All you have to do is go to YouTube, do Tour of Air Force One. And on the Tour of Air Force One, you will see everything that's available to the president. They have the ability for him to sleep in his private quarters in the front of the plane. He has his own chef who doesn't take out like Pop-Tarts and, chicken pot pies and throw those in a microwave. They serve him complete meals that are cooked. He gets what he wants, cooked the way he wants, delivered the way he wants. And I'm not knocking it. That's what a president should have. But you do all that, you sleep on the way over to Italy, you sleep on the way back, and you come and you pass the eastern U.S., and you sleep all the way to Los Angeles. You get out and do what you did in Los Angeles, and then you go forward 3 time zones. If Alitalia can put me on a plane, and they did this several years ago, put me on a plane, and on my way to Israel, they fly me to Italy from New York City. They fed me 3 times during that 12-hour flight. 3 times. So that I could get, set up for the time zone I was going to. And not 3 little this serving, you get popcorn, and now you're getting, no, they were 3 complete meals. If Alitalia could do that for me, I'm pretty sure that Air Force One is able to take care of the president. Part of what the staff and Air Force One is designed for is so that the president can be, whoever it is, the president can be in full focus and in full mindset while he's there in that time zone. So he gets off the plane and he doesn't look tired. He doesn't stumble on the steps, pun included, as he takes off. And then KJB says, Biden was under the weather. He pushed through. That's what this president does. I think anybody that does that should be commended. Okay, doesn't do with the ridiculous way he was unable to answer questions. And I'll say this. Is she saying this so guys like me can hear this and come to some kind of a decision about President Biden? Or is this trying to get other people in line? The people that have supported the president all along. Is this to get them in line? I'm not real sure. KJP says the dumbest things. Corinne Jean-Pierre. And she even said, we get tired looking at Biden during his meetings and traveling. No, you don't. During the traveling, you don't get tired looking at him. He's in his quarters most of the time, or he's in his private office. He's up there with you for 20 minutes, KJP, when she calls for you, and he wants you to be there with him. Other than that, nope. Nope, you can't look at him. And then she said, the last few days have been challenging, but we have an extraordinary record to be proud of. Okay, every president has said that, whether it was accurate or not. But with this president, the one thing that they're doing here is a little different. They keep telling me what an extraordinary record it is that he has and what he has done. But they never sit down and delineate. They never give me point 1, 2, 3, 5, 7. They don't tell me what those extraordinary accomplishments are. She just goes on and says, he's as sharp as ever. He is. In fact, here's how she said it. He's as sharp as I have known him to be in my engagement and my experience with him. So he's as sharp as he's been in the last 3.5 years? Yay! Yeah, I'm just not sure. I'm really not sure. According to KJP, looking back at some things she said over the last week, he's got the most extraordinary record administration in modern politics, and a lot of what is on his agenda is very much popular with the majority of the American people. KJP, are you looking at the polls? 70% of Americans right now say he's unfit to be president. Nobody likes what's happening at the border. Nobody likes the economy. You keep telling them that you've created hundreds of thousands of jobs when you haven't, because people say, well, if there are hundreds of thousands of new jobs, where's mine? Or why am I still making minimum? I mean, it makes no sense. We're not stupid out here. You're saying these things for the camera, but they filter out to Americans all across the country. It's got to be different. You guys have got to come up with something different, because this doesn't work. It just does not work. And you might be Adrian Elrod, who said it's just getting a little silly here that we're talking about one night in this presidential campaign where, yes, he had a bad night, but why are we letting that continue to make the news about what's at stake in this race? Because, trust me, if Donald Trump had a bad night, it's all you'd be hearing about. But just because you've got somebody like Fox and the Pat Miller program and, the other national programs that we carry here on WOWO, and we're saying it was a bad night, they're having a conniption fit. But also because some people in the media who are supposedly his great supporters, they are starting to fall away. They are starting to fall away, and that's starting to genuinely, truly upset the White House. What is it that's going on? What is it that's happening? We're going to pick up some of that and some of the things coming out from the other side, those that are supporters and past supporters of the president, and what are they saying? We'll talk about all this. Glad you're with us on this Saturday, this extended July the 4th weekend. Glad you're here, and we'll cover all this and some other things. Philip Wegman from Real Clear Politics comes up from Washington, D.C. right after the bottom of the hour. But supporters of Biden and what they say coming up right after this break. Right here on WOWO.
This is the Pat Miller Program on WOWO 92.3 FM and 1190 AM. Depend on it.
Hey, welcome back. I told you we'd be here, and here we are. Always glad when you guys are with us each and every Saturday. Remember, you can text me while I'm here or even after we're gone. That's 46862. That's 46862. Text the word WOWO first, your question or comment. Comes right here, and we'll try to get you an answer. If not while we're on the air, then certainly after. Remember, email me, Pat Miller, all one word, no dots or dashes, patmiller@wowo.com. Well, we told you about what KJP and some in and around the president are saying, trying to make us feel better about his less than successful appearance at the debate last week. But some of the people that support the president, for example, Reed Hastings, don't know who that is? That's the co-founder of Netflix. And he now has put in his voice, numbering amongst a whole bunch of Democrat supporters in Hollywood, calling for President Joe Biden to drop out of the presidential race. Can I ask you this? Here's what I think has happened. Why are they calling for it now? And I'm not trying to be funny. This is what I think has happened. Those of us who have reported on the president and his lack of ability to hang in there, it really didn't come as a surprise to us. I think, though, it came as a surprise to some who thought, okay, Joe's been slow. Things are a little, we keep covering for him, but he's going to be back. He's going to have a week at Camp David to be ready. They could give him special, juice pills, and they could have him drinking properly, lots of water, make sure everything's perfect, make sure everything's fine. He'll be great when he gets in there for the debate, and he wasn't. And so now they're trying to act like they never knew this was coming, and now that they've seen it, they are in absolute shock and dismay. Here's what Hastings, co-founder of Netflix, wrote in an email to the New York Times. Biden needs to step aside to allow a vigorous Democrat leader to beat Trump and keep us safe and prosperous. He is one of the largest Democrat voters. And for him to make this statement, having contributed more than $20 million to his party over the years, it's starting to be a great problem as these things are being resonated throughout the country. Let me say this clearly, he said, as clearly as I possibly can, as simply and as straightforward as I can. I am running. No one's pushing me out. That's what Biden has said. He said it 3 days ago during a call with the Democratic National Committee. I'm not leaving. I'm in this race to the end. We're going to win. However, a lot of people on the Democrat side come away, and they are not all that convinced. Damon Lindelof, co-creator of the hit television show Lost, said it's time for Democrats to wake the blanking after president's simply game-changing debate performance and proposed that donors withhold their money from the party until Biden ends his reelection bid. That doesn't just hurt the president. That hurts Democratic Senate races, Democratic congressional races. He's not saying withhold it from the Biden policy or the Biden campaign. He said withhold it from the party. Withhold it from the party until he's gone. And so I do propose, he said, a Dembargo, Dembargo. No checks written, no Act Blue links clicked for anyone, he wrote in Deadline guest column on Wednesday of this week. When a country is not behaving how we want them to, we apply harsh economic sanctions. It's a give and take. Short-term hurt for long-term healing. Is it misguided, he asked, to punish the entire team for the stubbornness of the pitcher? Maybe, but it's also common sense that if he stays in, they will also lose. A rising tide lifts all boats. A falling Biden sinks them all. Let me say this one more time, because I think this encompasses a great deal of thinking and a great position. A rising tide lifts all boats. A falling Biden sinks them all. Less than 2 weeks before the debate, the CNN debate, a lot of stars in and around Hollywood organized a record-breaking $30 million fundraiser for Biden's campaign in downtown Los Angeles. It featured Julia Roberts, George Clooney, Barbara Streisand, Jimmy Kimmel, former President Barack Obama as backers of Biden's reelection efforts. Now leaders in the entertainment industry, the same industry, are turning on Joe Biden. They're the same guy. They're turning on him. Art Emanuel, described as a power player in Hollywood, voiced his frustrations with the 81-year-old president on Tuesday of this week. He said, well, I'm peed off at the founding fathers, he told the attendees at the Aspen Ideas Festival. He's teed off. They have a start date of 35 years old to be president. They just didn't give us the end date. And, well, everybody died back then, so they didn't have to have the end date. Basically, people are living longer now. They died before 81 for the most part, he said. He says, I had a father who died at 92, but at 81, I took away his car, and it was a very simple test for me. If you were driving from downtown Beverly Hills to Malibu, would you want Biden to do it at night? Would you want Trump to do it at night? If the answer is neither, you cannot have them running a $27 trillion company called the United States. So there's just a lot of call here that Joe Biden is panning out to not be what it was that they thought they were putting in place. It's just not there. Just not there. Look, the deputy Biden campaign manager, Quentin Fulks, I think is his name, he said this. Obviously, there were 90 minutes of a poor debate performance, but that does not define the record of accomplishments. It does not define the vision that President Biden has. Okay, here's my question. if you have him basically secluded from everybody when he went to the G7, then when he went to California, and then when he flew back to D.C., so basically he's untethered on either coast or in between, and then when he gets back to D.C., they basically take him from the airport and pop him to Camp David, and he has a week at Camp David. The best food, his doctors are there. There's always a doctor traveling with the president. All this is there. All this is going on. They make sure everything is well, everything is good. And then he comes out, and then he has this 90-minute debate. It's amazing to me. He goes, people continue to count Joe Biden out, and we continue to see the president perform. Where, Quentin? Please tell me. Where? You keep telling me, you see him perform. Tell me. Why didn't you say 90 minutes of a poor debate, but don't forget on Wednesday he did this, and on Friday he did that, and at the G7 he did this? Other than walking off the platform and walking in the wrong direction at the G7, what did he do that was incredible? What did he do that was incredible? This year, Karine Jean-Pierre says, the president has done more than 40 interviews. He has done more than 500 gaggles. A gaggle is just somebody yelling a question at him, okay? That's not it, okay? I mean, that's not it. It's one thing to say that he's done 40 interviews, but how many press conferences has he had? In interviews, you got somebody like a George Stephanopoulos or somebody who's basically on your side more than you have a president who's making himself available to a press openly and saying, okay, guys, I'm here. Bring it on. I'm ready. Bring it to me. Gary Bauer said, things are really bad when a Democrat president loses the support of Carl Bernstein and Jake Tapper. Both of them, Bernstein and Tapper, both of them talked about how it was dismal what the president did. Later on in this program, as a lot of people are calling for the president to leave, Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, for example, are dead set on not letting Biden quit. Why would that be? Why is it that Jill Biden keeps trotting him out, grabbing him by his sleeve and pulling him along, make sure he can make his way to the podium, make sure he leaves the right side of the platform, making sure everything goes well? Why is it that Jill Biden needs to have the president continue to be the president for another 4 years? Do you think that Jill Biden is that moved with the president's policies continuing? Is that it? Is she worried about the border? Is she worried about the economy? What is it that pushes Jill Biden? And what pushes Hunter Biden? Hunter Biden needs to make sure that his dad is in there at least until the election. And here's why. I talked about this last week. The president says that he will never release Hunter Biden, his son, from any of his terms of his court dates or any court dates that come after. I'm not going to pardon him. I'm not going to commute his sentence. I'm not going to do any of that. Well, he can still do it. The fact that he said he's not going to doesn't mean that he won't. When would he do it? Somewhere between the election and January the 20th. And here's why. If he loses the election, his powers stop January the 20th of next year. But he'll never stand for election again, so he can pardon Hunter. And if people want to, throw mud at him, let him throw it. Can't hurt him. If he wins re-election, he can obviously still do it and let them throw mud because he'll never stand before them for an election ever again. It's all calculated. I think it's all rolling around in their heads, and I think it's all genuine, and I think it's all real. We're going to be back with more straight ahead. This is Pat Miller. Glad you're with us on this Saturday here on WOWO. We're here as every Saturday on WOWO 92.3 FM and always on WOWO 1190 AM. Count on us. And welcome back. Glad you guys are with us this afternoon. As always, thanks for being part of the Pat Miller program. Remember, you can text me while I'm on the air or even after we're gone. That's 46862, 46862. Text the word WOWO first, then your question or comment, and it comes right here. And you might have some comments after this segment with an oft visitor with the Pat Miller Program. He is the founder and the CEO of Invest USA, Michael Letts. Michael, good afternoon to you, my friend.
Always a privilege to be with you, Pat. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I hope you had a wonderful 4th.
We did. Had an absolutely great 4th. It was a much quieter 4th this time. The lovely Mrs. Miller and I were at home. We didn't go out. We weren't with friends. So we ate what we wanted to eat. I grilled what I wanted to grill. And then we were able to watch 2 or 3 of the nationally televised fireworks displays, which doesn't sound real exciting. But if you've got a nice TV, a nice room, and a great sound system, it was a lot of fun, but we enjoyed it. Michael, I want to talk to you here, and I always want to bring this up. Michael is the founder of Invest USA. This is not money. This is, I'm putting you in gold, I'm putting you in this account, I'm putting you in the, in the market. No, invest. Think of protective vests for those in law enforcement. And Michael, you started years ago creating a fund and places where people could help you create these protective vests for police departments that maybe didn't have any, smaller sheriff's departments, just people that didn't have the protection they needed to have. Before we get to today's topic, about how many vests are you responsible for now all across our country?
Roughly 13,000 so far. The number's still climbing. But keep in mind this. People say, wow, that's an awful lot. Yeah, that's a lot of numbers, but realize that we used to have 1.2 to 1.3 million sworn officers. We're down to about 700,000 across the country now. But out of that, 90% still do not have active shooter vests. So that's about 600,000 cops that still need help. It's a lot of people.
Okay, let me ask you a question. You just said something, and my ears went, what? Okay, when you started, we had about how many police officers, and now we're down to about how many police officers?
Well, before Biden took office, let's put it that way, we averaged between 1.2 to 1.3 million across the country, sworn officers.
Okay.
We're down now to about 720,000, and the number keeps dropping.
Okay, now
we have agencies that are 50%. It's just amazing what's happening.
Yeah, real quick, because you've been in and around police officers all your professional life. What do you attribute most of that to?
The policies and this administration and the mass media's pressing the issue that officers are somehow not worthy and they're radicals and they're bullies and they need to be disrespected.
Wow.
Those 2 things are what are killing us across the country.
Well, Kayla Blakesley from Fort Wayne's Morning News here on our station, and you folks need to listen to this. She has a show and a podcast she does every week. She has a police officer, a woman, who does a show with her, but they have special guests from the area, normally Fort Wayne Police Department, and it's called Unholstered. So if you don't know what that is, just go to wobo.com and find the show, the podcast, Unholstered. And I'm telling you, every time I hear those shows, I'm nailed to my seat. It's pretty amazing. Michael Letts knows all about these people. I got to tell you, Michael, I just had you on a couple of weeks ago, and normally I like to have you on about once a month, so I'm sorry I'm bothering you again. But you had an article come up, the Border Patrol's real position on Biden. In other words, is what we're getting out on the field and talking to people down on the border, is that maybe a different perspective than the perspective that we're giving from the press room inside the White House?
It's a 180-degree difference. This White House is adept at lying. In fact, I'm not so sure there's anything else they can do. I don't think they've been able to speak the truth yet in 3.5 years. But, of course, you saw during the debate that, Biden claimed the endorsement and support of the Border Patrol, et cetera. And the Border Patroller is not anyone I know. We just got back from the border again handing out vests there. There's not a single Border Patrol agent anywhere in the country that would support that statement. They can't stand it. And law enforcement itself, there are maybe a few cops across the country who are in a political position that are Democrats that may support him, but 99% do not. And it's very simple why. Because when he ran for election in 2020, he felt like he needed their support, so he said, I believe in police, we've got to fund them. The minute he gets elected, he supports the defund the police movement.
Yep.
He supports the lies that are told about officers, how that they're brutal, that they try to manipulate, try to harass citizens, etc. He pushes for defunding them, quite frankly. Then when it comes to the 22 elections and he realizes that he needs to get his Democratic base to line up to help him hold Congress, which they didn't do, suddenly it's, we really should support our officers. We're going to put a bill into Congress.
Uh-huh.
We're going to make sure we get additional funding to help their emergency needs and their equipment needs. Never once materialized. The only thing that happens with Biden is his actions are always the exact opposite of his words. Just recently, just 2 weeks ago, he brought in Tyler Cherry, who is now his third in position in the White House. He's the Administrative Communications Director. Tyler is known as a defund the police activist.
Right.
His tweets are, the cops are nothing but slave patrols, and that we should be all locked up and jailed or killed, for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
How in the world can you put somebody in that kind of a position, authoritative position, knowing that is his philosophy on law enforcement, and then claim to be pro-law enforcement?
Well, a week and a half ago, we had the debate between Biden and former President Trump. And Biden made some claim during the debate of being so, we walk the blue line, and we certainly support everybody on the blue line, meaning police officers and all that. And Trump came out and said, every police organization of any merit across this country has stepped forward and placed their support behind me, behind Donald Trump, and not behind you, and with good reason. Was that a true and accurate statement?
It's a very accurate statement. And, to give us an illustration, again, why Biden is so despised with law enforcement, period, but especially with the Border Patrol. As you will recall, when he got elected, the borders suddenly opened back up.
Right.
They began to pour through. And so they hadn't communicated with Border Patrol yet that you were to stand by and let them come through. They were supposed to still do their job and try to stem the tide. So they brought in the mounted patrol. And you remember the pictures from the mass media on the river?
Yes.
They were having a bridle. They were controlling their horses. They were
right.
whipping those people with. And here's what's so frustrating, Pat. They did an internal investigation 1 hour before Biden and Malarkey. Yeah, he is a Malarkey. The Homeland Security Director, Mayorkas, 1 hour before they hold a press conference. They were briefed on a full investigation. Not a single thread of evidence that there had been any impropriety, that they had used any of the switches to hit any particular illegal immigrant. No truth at all. Yet after that, an hour later, they both held a press conference together, Mayorkas and Biden, and said that this was a disgusting display of American law enforcement, and they would get to the bottom of it, and they would be severely punished. Put a black stain on them that they still have not been able to outlive.
No.
It's a total lie. So why should they have any support? Forget the fact that he's a president, just for any man who lies so blatantly. No respect.
No respect at all. Kayla Blakesley from Fort Wayne's Morning News, she was down on the border. I think it's been about 2 years ago now. I was supposed to try to go down, and with some health concerns at the time, could not go. And Kayla, very competent, she went down and she came back. Everything Kayla told me on my program after her visit to the border was totally different than what I heard coming out of Washington, D.C., and it sounds like that's not unusual. That's basically, things the way they are, and we're just supposed to accept it, and I'm tired of that.
You're exactly right. The White House doesn't care for me at all. They communicate with me often, and when they give me a nasty communication, I fire back. Name me one specific, just one, that's all I'm asking for. One specific incident where he has ever done anything for law enforcement.
How do they respond to your responses? Do they?
Yeah, they do. Well, I'm not looking at the overall picture. It's the Republicans' part. They are trying to put money in. I said, no, I have too many contacts on the Hill. Show me one bill that you put your name to, or you threw your support behind, that supported law enforcement. Just one.
Yep.
And then I don't get a response from those. I give them illustrations, Pat. I mean, practical things Americans can understand. You had in New York the two officers that were shot and killed on the line of duty. They were doing their funeral. And remember, Trump came and spoke to the family. And the same day, Biden was there doing a fundraiser. It wouldn't even take 5 minutes to even call. Forget dropping by. He wouldn't even call. He would express no sentiment at all to the families of those officers that were left behind.
Well, and when the president put the vice president in charge of our border, she's the one that's going to be her inability to even want to be around the border told me that her being put in that position was just the president trying to step away from that position. But it's a non-border position. And they can't convince me otherwise. It is what it is. But, I mean, I think that says a multitude of what it is that we're up against. We have an administration, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, Michael, but and a president who don't give a rip.
No, you're exactly right. In fact, you were not putting words in my mouth. I was fixing to get a little harder than what you did. Not only do they not give a rip, they don't care about American citizens. They would rather take your tax dollars, my tax dollars, and spend them on illegal immigrants, giving them tenfold what any other American receives. You know, when you you're an illegal immigrant, you cross that border, you get free hotel. Remember, this is not the Motel 6. They put these up at 5-star hotels.
Yeah, these are nice hotels.
Nice hotels. They get the room service, everything that goes along with it. They get full meals. They get full transportation there. They get credit cards with incidental money put on there for them to have for incidental expenses of up to $10,000 a month. You tell me what American vet who's homeless, who sacrificed for his country, gets any of that.
Yeah, $10,000 a month, I'd take that deal. In fact, I'm half tempted to get on a plane and fly to Mexico and put on some raggedy clothes and come across the border and see if I can get that deal.
Well, Pat, you're going to have to get in line because I'm going first. You're right behind me.
Yeah, and if I try to cut in line in front of you, you'll beat the crud out of me. So I know how that goes.
Oh, no, there's plenty of money, is what this administration says. We can bring in every single person in the world can get the same deal and come to America.
Yeah, in years past, FAIR, the Federation for American Immigration Reform, and I know you know about them, but they hosted a Radio Row every year. They're in Washington within the shadow of the Capitol building. And when I would talk to people, Border Patrol and those that oversaw the Border Patrol, the level of frustration and the level of discontent with the current administration was so palpable. And every time I get a news story, yours included, that's not getting better. It's only getting worse.
Well, the biggest insult to injury, just yesterday, you had the Palestinian illegal immigrants in D.C. that were interrupting July the 4th celebration, shouting death to America. We just don't need to tolerate that, Pat.
No.
That is just insulting to every American and especially to every veteran and those who lost family members defending this great nation.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Hey, as always, Michael, I appreciate very much you coming on with us. You can find out more about what he's doing at Invest USA, and you can look him up there. Follow him online. Do a search. Do a Google search for Michael Letts, Letts, Michael Letts, and you'll see a lot of articles and a lot of opinion pieces and a lot of great work that this man has done. He always makes himself available. I'm glad he doesn't shy away from the microphone or our program here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Michael, as always, you're a great friend. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you very much.
Thank you, Pat. God bless you. God bless America. We're looking forward to great things happening in a few months ahead. Buckle up. It's going to be a wonderful ride.
A wild ride. We'll cover it all right here. We'll be back straight ahead right here on WOWO 92.3 FM and 1190 AM.
This is the Pat Miller Program on WOWO 92.3 FM and 1190 AM. Depend on it.
Hey, welcome back. It is the Pat Miller Program here with you on this Saturday. Our thanks to Michael Letts, founder of Invest USA, for being with us in the previous segment of the program. And in our main conversations with Michael, we're talking primarily about our border between us and Mexico and all that's occurring there. But let's keep our eyes open here. That's not the only thing happening in the world. Sometimes it's the only thing happening in the realm of everything that we see, but it's not everything. Hezbollah. And I told you back after the attack by Hamas at Israel's southern border, I told you then, I said, we've got to keep our eyes at the north end of Israel, because as soon as Israel is weakened, either by military or by political support, and they've had more by political support than military, it's pretty hard to take out the Israeli military. But I said you have to watch the northern border. You've got to watch Hezbollah coming from the north. Hezbollah, which is found in Lebanon. Well, it's happened. Hezbollah launched this week a big attack on Israel. Sonic booms going into Israel, so big that the sonic booms are actually rattling Beirut. And so these attacks have happened. Big rocket and drone attacks on Israel starting 2 days ago while we were celebrating the 4th of July have threatened to hit new targets in retaliation for the killing of a top commander, the latest surge of violence in the steadily worsening conflict across the border, sparked by the Gaza war. Everything that happened when they came across and attacked Israel from the south. The conflict between Iran-backed Hezbollah and Israel has been gradually intensifying for the months since then, raising fears of a full-scale war, which both sides have indicated they want to avoid, and diplomats are working to prevent. As the latest violence played out in areas at or near the frontier, in keeping with the pattern of the last 9 months, the sound of sonic booms from jets rattled nerves for the second successive day in Beirut and other parts of Lebanon. Israeli jets broke the sound barrier over several areas of the country, the news agency for Lebanon reported. Let me just say this. That is both a defensive and a slightly muted offensive maneuver on the part of the Israeli Air Force. Would they prefer that the bombs be dropped from those jets and those would be the booms they hear? I get it. People cover their heads and scurry and run for cover when they hear the booms, even though they're just sonic booms, but they are just sonic booms. All this came about. Mohammed Nasser, in the south of Wednesday, one of the most senior Hezbollah commanders to be killed in Israel during the conflict, and that's what they're trying to come in from the north, and they're trying to avenge his death. The Israeli military said around 200 projectiles and over 20 suspicious aerial targets were identified crossing from Lebanon into Israeli territory, and a number of those were intercepted by Israeli air defenses and fighter jets. Think, the dome that they have over Israel. The ambulance service said no casualties were reported. The Israeli military said some of the drones and the interceptor shrapnel did set off fires. Now, the Israeli Air Force struck Hezbollah military structures in the areas of Ramiyeh and Hula and said, referring to the two villages in South Lebanon, senior Hezbollah official Hashim Safaeddin, speaking at an event in Beirut commemorating Nasser, indicated his group would widen its targeting. In other words, we're going to hit them with more than we have hit them. The series of responses continues in succession, and this series will continue to target new sites that the enemy did not imagine would be hit. Well, yeah, but did you hit them? The United States has been leading diplomatic efforts to de-escalate the fighting. But let me just say this. Not to overly politicize, but it's there. When you see President Biden, who is the quote-unquote leader of the free world and leader of the United States and the chief executive officer of the United States and the leading military person in the United States, when you see that person and you see it's Joe Biden, if you are Hezbollah, does that give you reason to pause and say, maybe we shouldn't attack right now, it might not be good? Or do you feel more ability to go and attack now? And if you are Israel, do you think that they feel more defended by their friend, the United States, or less defended? I think absolutely less defended would probably be it. Amos Hochstein, senior U.S. official at the heart of diplomacy, discussed French and American efforts to restore calm in meetings with French officials on Wednesday, an official with the White House said. Now, Hochstein said France and the United States share the goal of resolving the conflict that's current across the blue line by diplomatic means, allowing Israeli and Lebanese civilians to return home with long-term assurances of safety and security. Well, that's fine, again, if you have a leader among the conflict, in this particular case, Joe Biden, who can give that sense of calm. I'm just not sure that right now we have a president who can extend that to those friends and their enemies in the Middle East. We've got more coming up. Philip Wegman from Real Clear Politics. He will be with us here after the top of the hour, and we'll talk with him. And I've got more to discuss with you as we go throughout the balance of this day. Thanks for being with us on this Saturday following the 4th. This is Pat Miller on WOWO 92.3 FM and 1190 AM.
Podcasts by Federated Media.